Welcome to the award-winning Superhuman Academy podcast, where we interview extraordinary people to give you the skills and strategies to overcome the impossible. And now, here's your host, Jonathan Levy.
Greetings, super friends, and welcome to this week's episode, which was lovingly handcrafted thanks to a review from Tollypup, who gave a 5-star review titled Autodidactic Dream Team. As someone who has very little conventional schooling, this podcast has been a staple in my daily life. It provides amazing leads and content to learn as much as possible on multiple subjects. Also, as a budding entrepreneur, this is my go-to for inspiration and book recommendations. Well, thank you very, very much, Tollypup. I so appreciate that. And, honestly, it warmed my little heart. On to today's episode. Do you know anyone that's worked with Sir Elton John or Elon Musk, sent people down to the wreck of the Titanic on the seabed, or closed entire museums in Florence for a private dinner party with Andre Bocelli serenading while they ate their pasta? Well, you do now. Quoted as the real-life Wizard of Oz by Forbes and Entrepreneur Magazine, Steve Sims is a best-selling author with BLUEFISHING, The Art of Making Things Happen. He's a sought-after consultant and speaker, and he's spoken to groups like the Pentagon and Harvard twice. He also is a friend of mine from Genius Network, the mastermind that I am a part of with Joe Polish and many other interesting human beings. And I think he's one of the most interesting human beings on the planet. On that note, this episode goes really wide, really far, and we talk about how can you make anything happen. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means you have things that you would like to happen in your life, things you would like to achieve, experiences you would like to have. How do you actually make them happen? From the person who made a career for decades of making impossible things happen for people. And I know what you're thinking. This is going to be an episode where he says, well, you just got to really try hard and you got to know the right people. No, you will be very surprised by what Steve has to say. And even he caught me multiple times going about things the wrong way. And multiple times he corrected me and coached me and said, if you want to make this happen, you got to stop doing this. And I love that. I love when someone can bring to my attention how I can improve myself. I know you're going to enjoy it as well. So please enjoy this episode with Mr. Steve Sims. Mr. Steve D. Sims, how are you, my friend?
I'm cool, man. It's good to hear your voice. It's been a while.
Likewise, yeah. Well, I haven't been able to fly out to Phoenix for Genius Network, and I imagine you haven't either. So it's good to connect virtually.
Yeah, strange old days. Yep, strange days.
Absolutely. So, Steve, I've known you for a long time, and I've heard a lot of your incredible stories, but I want to give our audience a little bit of background, and I'd love if you traced your biography and your evolution, because I've also always wondered, how did all this get started for you? How did you get into becoming Steve Sims and through Bluefish? I'd love to hear your superhero origin story, if you would.
Wow. Well, it's very dull. I left school at the age of 15, moved on to my dad's building site, and just realized I didn't fit. Like all entrepreneurs, we 9 times out of 10 know where we don't fit rather than where we do fit. Yes. So I left very early on in the building career because I was like, is this my life? Is this it? And I bounced off of so many different jobs, and I kind of run away. I got the chance of a job in Hong Kong. I was in London at the time. Got a chance of a job in Hong Kong through a friend of mine who worked for a bank, and they were hiring interns for stockbrokers in Hong Kong. I gave the resume that had more fiction in it than a Harry Potter novel. It was just, I think in my resume, I did actually mention I was related to the Queen. It was just so ridiculous. I thought anyone's going to see it. They're not going to hate me for lying. They're just going to laugh and think it's funny. And I make it they didn't even notice. They were taking about 60 people over. They didn't even notice. So they recruited me, flew me over to Hong Kong. I got drunk on the Saturday and the Sunday with them because I'm really qualified at that. I did orientation on the Monday and I was fired on the Tuesday. So now I'm in Hong Kong, no job. They did actually give me a month's salary. So at the time I thought I was the richest guy on the planet. Sad thing was I was also in the most expensive place in the planet, Hong Kong at the time. So that went quickly. And you've seen me, so I, by default, ended up working as a doorman on a nightclub. And from there, and this is where it's funny, this is not where you think the journey would start. This is not where you think you would get the best look. But it gave me the chance to stand on the door and be paid to watch humanity come through the door. And I was able to pick groups of people and go, well, I want to be like him. Oh, I like his jacket. I want to be able to wear that jacket. And I got to dream and fantasize. And we used to play a game on the door going, I wonder if he's a realtor. I wonder if he's an attorney. I wonder if these people are celebrating a contract, a wedding, a get-together, a school reunion. We used to play, and as they would come up to the door, we'd be like, hello, ladies, how you doing? So what are we celebrating tonight? Oh, it's my hen. And we had this little joke. But the old statement of accumulation of the 5 people you hang around with, well, I was hanging around with broke-ass bikers, so I needed to hang around with rich people. Now, being the doorman, I knew where all the nightclubs were. I knew where they had the guest appearances. I knew where the celebrities were turning up. So I actually would start going into these rich people and give them a reason to talk to me by going, hey, boys, what are you doing tomorrow night? I've got this club. I may be able to get you in. Is that of interest to you? And even from an early age, I would start charging them. So I went from basically becoming a party promoter just to get them to talk to me, just so that I now had a connection with people that I wanted to be, affluent people. I went from a party promoter to throwing my own parties on low nights in the clubs. I'd take over clubs on like the quiet nights. And then I started taking over yachts, penthouses, mansions. And before you knew it, I ended up working and partnering with the New York Fashion Week, the Kentucky Derby, Formula One Monaco, the Grammys, all these different events and things going on around the planet. And in between that, my clientele were very, very affluent, very powerful, because I learned from a very early age, poor people couldn't afford me. It was no point in me selling to a crowd that were haggling over that $50. I wanted to go to a crowd where $50,000 wasn't a stretch for them. So I was very laser focused on who I actually connected with. And along the way, they were saying things like, well, I'd like to learn guitar by drums by Guns N' Roses. I'd love to learn guitar by ZZ Top. I'd like to walk on a movie. I'd love to go and see the Titanic. Oh, I'd love to do this. Can you do it? And I became, again, like all entrepreneurs, we thrive on that challenge. I became the man that can. And every time I did something kind of ridiculous, they would talk about it. I'd end up with another couple of billionaire clients. And then I'd go and do this with Sir Elton John, or I'd go and do this with Andre Bocelli, or I'd go and do this in the Vatican. And it exploded to the point that Forbes and Entrepreneur Magazine called me the real life Wizard of Oz.
That's fantastic. Well, I mean, tell me some of the crazier stories. I think you've outlined a few of them, but I don't think people realize in the audience, like, those are actual real examples. So tell us some of the things that you can share. I don't know if you're allowed to talk about, like, you know, people have rumored about you being the man behind the Amex Black Card concierge, but tell me the things that you can tell me and some crazy stories so people can get an idea for just the stuff that you've been able to make happen.
Well, we did actually work a lot for the Black Amex for quite a while, and Bank of America had a version as well for their high rollers, and also so did Goldman Sachs. And I'm trying to think of one of the other big banks that actually went down during the recession in 2008. But we worked for a lot of their major loyalty programs in doing the amazing. But I've sent people literally down to the seabed to see the wreck of the Titanic. I had a client of mine that wanted a really cool restaurant in Florence, and he told me to pick it. So I closed down the Accademia Museum, set up a table of 6 at the feet of Michelangelo's David, and then as they're sitting, eating their pasta in the middle of a completely closed down museum, I brought in Andre Bocelli to serenade them. So I try to imagine beyond their request. In fact, I've often said, never give people what they ask for, give them what they lust for and desire for. And most people, funny enough, they don't dream big enough. So that's where I come in.
That's incredible. And And I have often admired you because you have this appetite for creating these unbelievable experiences. And, before the show we were talking and you were telling me how, you've been making a transition in your own life to go beyond the Bluefish. And I think really, really well timed, given all this coronavirus stuff and all the restrictions on travel. But you're now working more with individuals and sharing how people can live bigger, have crazier experiences. Tell me a bit about that.
Well, it's kind of crazy. If you had said to me, hey, I want to get into the papal gardens in the Vatican, it wouldn't have bothered me, and I would make it happen, and I have made it happen. But I really didn't think anyone would ever want me to look at their business or to look at their life. And a few years ago, we have to back up, but a few years ago, like 3 years ago, I got asked to do a book. I got a shout out to Tucker Max for making the introduction. I got asked to do a book, and the book was, hey, can you name the famous people you've dealt with? And we could do a book on what they've been up to. And the bottom line of it is, I've got some rather powerful clients. If I started naming names, I'll be dead by cocktail hour. And so in which case we declined. We then did another speech, and someone heard me, and they came back to me and they said, well, hey, instead of talking about who you do these for, can you talk about how you do it? And I honestly thought no one would ever want to hear about an old bricklayer from East London. And we've met each other. And so for these people, we know each other. These people that are listening to this podcast don't have any idea of how stunningly good looking I am. But I'm not the guy that you would meet at 11 o'clock at night in a dark alley and feel comfortable with. I'm a big fella, tattoos, earrings, eyebrow piercings, that kind of thing. Typical biker. Okay. I didn't think anyone would take it seriously. So when we got the book deal, we didn't even have a website. We thought to ourselves, oh, well, maybe I'll sell 10 copies of that. 9 of them would be my mum. 1 of them would be me just to annoy the kids. And that'd be it. And for the first couple of months, sales were low. They were in their hundreds. And then it went thousands and tens, and it just took off. And recently it got released in Polish. It's been translated in Vietnamese, Thai, Japanese, Mandarin Chinese, all these different places around the planet. It's actually being translated now in Russian, but it just got released in Poland, in Warsaw, Poland. And they did an event announcing, the publishing house announced all these different books coming out. My book sold out all of our print copies in one day. And wow. It's just become amazing how people have come to me. So we have had to build a website, build a training program. We do stuff on simsdistillery.com. We have a free Facebook group called An Entrepreneur's Advantage. And what we do is quite simply just communicate. I wasn't aware of just how terrified people are of doing the simplest and stupidest of things to make the largest impact. And I think if I had a secret sauce, that's it. In fact, my wife has always said, as a superhero, my superhero strength or my superhero skill is the power of ignorance. I don't overthink things. You would never, ever chat with Joe Polish and go, oh, Steve Sims, he overthinks things. He overplans. You would never have that conversation. And Joe certainly wouldn't, because he's seen me in action many times. And so it just became that a lot of people started coming to me and just going, hey, how can you do this? And here was the daft thing. If we go back in this podcast, we said that as all entrepreneurs, we love the challenge. Now, I've gone from getting you to meet Elton John and Elon Musk and Richard Branson and those kind of things, which have been great financial challenges for me because I've made a lot of money off of it. But there is nothing more exciting and challenging than getting a realtor. One of my latest clients owns a plumbing company throughout Southern California. I've got a client in Paris that's launching a vegan line of lipsticks. I've got people that make belts. I've got people that make suits. I've got people that flip houses, people that are writing books, people that are trying to launch their own podcast. It's amazing the kind of people that are coming to me going, hey, what would you do? And the first thing we do is we stop thinking and we start doing. And it's just become really interesting. And that's where my excitement lies now. It's been 2.5 years. and we got a pretty damn good following. I remember, just to quickly tell you this, when we got the book, I was called up into New York at Simon & Schuster, and I was sat down with this girl that was the head of the social, okay, for the company. This girl looked about 12 years old. I thought it was like bring a kid to school day. And she said to me, we need to talk about your social presence. And I said, well, I don't really do a lot of social presence. She said, well, you need the credibility. And I had literally just had an 8-page article written about me in Forbes. And I looked at this girl and I said to her, look, I don't want to be rude, but girlie, I got an 8-page article in Forbes a couple of days ago with Richard Branson and Elon Musk. So I think I'm okay. And she turned around to me and she said, you got 16 followers on Instagram and no one reads Forbes. And I was like, ouch. So I think now, for some strange reason, there's a lot of dysfunctional people that follow me now. But I think we're now, at last check, like about 60,000 people that follow me on Instagram. So it's gone up a little bit.
Yeah, and it would probably be 60 million if you shared all the stuff that you were, if you could share all the stuff that you were doing. I want to ask, that the book is subtitled, it's called BLUEFISHING for folks. We'll link it in the show notes at superhuman.blog. But BLUEFISHING, the art of making things happen. What does that mean? Is that specifically making entrepreneurial things happen? Or, as I understand it, and just from talking to you about the book, which I haven't had a chance to check out yet, but it's really about, I want to make something happen in my life, whether it's climbing Everest, launching a business, applying for a dream job, or having a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
Yeah, and that's the beauty about the vagueness of the title. It can be anything from winning your dream date to winning your dream job to just enhancing where you are now. It's basically the mentality of a 15-year-old bricklayer and how he gets to be able to hang out with Elton John. There's a lot of people that are scared of themselves. They always say that, when you're pointing at someone, 4 fingers are pointed back at you. People are too scared to try things. We're too terrified to fail. Now, here's the dumb thing, and we should really recognize this with the coronavirus. Your greatest growth, the greatest inspiration, and we were talking about this just before we went live, the greatest profit and growth and lesson always comes from the darkest moment. You don't get success from success. Something goes wrong and you go, oh my God, how can I make it better? And then you don't go 2 steps above where you were before, you go 10. So I wonder, in these days of the coronavirus and post the coronavirus, what relationships became stronger? What ideas were conceived? What business plans were put on the back of a beer mat? What anger, passion, desire, and lust was developed in this moment that's going to make you go and do something that you didn't do before? I guarantee you we're going to see some major impact, some major benefit, and some people are really going to propel themselves out of the gate when we get our lights back on, far more than they would have had this never come along.
Incredible. So we've talked a little bit about, stop thinking so much, start doing, but walk me through your process. If you wanted to make something that someone else thinks is just impossible, right? I want to, I've got a bucket list. One day you and I should sit on bucket lists, because I bet you yours is a lot better than mine. But I've got something on my bucket list that I would love to do. How do I go about making that happen? I don't know the people that are involved. I don't have the connections. Stop. You've just done it. Okay. You've just done it like everyone else does. For a start, now I know you've been very successful winning podcasts and you've done a lot of interviews and I've seen you speak and you're a very confident young man. Okay. But the first time you ever spoke to anyone or the first time you ever did a podcast, it was shit. You know it was, okay? Why? Because the first time we do anything, it's shit. It's bad. It's not good. And you go back to, seeing videos of when you were first on stage or listening to your first ever podcast or reading your first ever proposal and you go, oh my God, how did I get going on that? Here's the point. You got going. Mm-hmm. Now, 9 times out of 10, you say to someone, hey, if you could do anything in the world, what would it be?
and they go, oh, I'd love to play piano. And then they do what you did. They make one statement about what they want, and then they start giving you a checklist of all the reasons why it can't happen. Mm-hmm. The amount of times I've had people come up to me and go, oh, I'd love to meet the rock band Journey. And then they do as you did. But I don't know how to get hold of them, and I don't have enough money, and I'm not really connected in this. They spend more time, more minutes focusing on why it can't happen rather than why it should. Now, just imagine if you turned yourself, just imagine you were stupid enough. You gave yourself permission to be stupid and ignorant, and you sat there and went, I'd really like to meet Elton John, and then shut up. Don't give yourself the excuses and then go, all right, so what do I need to do first? Now, when I had a client that wanted to get married in the Vatican by the Pope, I had no connections with the Vatican. I had no connections with the Pope. But what's the point of me phoning someone up in Idaho? There's none, is there? I needed to speak to someone in Italy. So what's the first thing I should do? Well, who do I know in Italy? I'll phone them up and I'll ask them, because at least they're closer. I phoned up a couple of people. They had no idea. I phoned up the third person. They knew someone that got me closer, that knew someone that was actually within the Vatican that maybe had to put me in touch with the right person. The bottom line of it is no one ever falls onto the roof. You get there by climbing the ladder. And people don't see that. They look at the idea of playing piano with Elton John or playing drums with Guns N' Roses, and they go, but I don't know Guns N' Roses. No, more than likely you don't. There's no reason to clarify or confirm that you don't. But maybe you know someone at the bottom of that ladder that can get you to the next run, Now, I've done this for 30 plus years. So if you said to me, hey, I want to get hold of Steven Tyler, I can do a text. But before I got into the position of doing a text, I had to know someone who knew someone that I could help, that would allow them to help me get to the next person. There were a lot of favors. It cost me a lot of time, energy, thought, reward, finance to get to the end person, who sometimes I would get there. There's been examples when I've got to the final person I've wanted to, and they've gone, no, I don't like that. And you've gone, crap, I've just spent all of this time and energy climbing up the ladder to find out you don't want to do it. But here's the daft thing. If you know the last person that's close friends with X, if he's in that circle, he's probably got 5 other people you would like to have in your circle. So it's been amazing when I've gone for someone, not been able to get them, and all of a sudden the opportunity to get someone else of equal or even greater has popped up. I'll tell you quite openly, when I was trying to do when I did the Vatican, not the Vatican, the Accademia Museum in Florence. Museums are very, 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 very quiet. So when you shut a museum down and you're eating, those knives on the plates can become actually very annoying, and it can be very intimidating and not a very pleasurable meal. So we knew that. I always tried to look at what could make this bad. What's the worst thing that could happen? I always try to go negative when I'm actually in an event, so I can try and highlight some of those things. We thought about getting a string quartet. There was a group of young lads. I think they were called Il Voyole. I don't know. I'm probably bastardizing it, and I apologize. But it was these 3 young lads that were fantastic opera singers, young boys, and I thought it would be easier to get them. I reached out to try and get hold of these guys, and I ended up getting hold of someone that could help me, but he didn't think they'd be interested in doing, a gig for 6 people eating pasta in a museum. And so there were all these hurdles. And he turned around and he said, but my mate knows Andre Bocelli and he lives in Tuscany.
Oh, my God.
And I'm like, are you kidding? So through one failure, I got someone superior. Sorry, boys, but, an icon of Italian music. So the bottom line of it is, the first issue you've got, all of us, is we focus too many times on why we can't. Make your dream, manifest it, Make your dream in your head, solidify it by stating it. I want to do this, and then shut up. Don't allow the negative monkey to jump in there and give you all the reasons why you're inadequate, you can't do. Don't give those reasons. Don't give them the ability to do the reasons, and do the first thing. If you want to climb up Everest, walk towards the bottom of it. If you want to speak to a famous person, then find out where they go. You haven't got to be able to text them. Just find out where they are. Get into the location of where they are. Many, many times when I've wanted to get hold of someone very powerful, whether it be a client or a celebrity or a star or a singer, I've started hanging out in the vicinities that they hang out in, the award shows, the galas, backstage, all of those kind of things, to try and finally get into their face more than once. So I'm now a familiar face. The amount of times I've bumped into people and they've gone, do you know, I've seen you at a few events. You're damn right you have, because I've made sure I'm there to get this opportunity. So there it is. Start doing. You're going to be shit at it. You're going to be rusty. You're going to be ropey. But just start. And as Ari Meisel says, get going, then get good.
Yeah, wow. That's so incredible. And it's wonderful that it's that simple. It's like, stop restricting yourself and start taking the steps. I think it also comes down, you tell me from your experience, but I think it comes down to how bad people actually want it. It's like, you say you want these things, but are you willing to do the work, show up at the events, pick up the phone, make the calls, embarrass yourself by asking, hey, do you know, could you connect, calling up some random person in Italy and going, hey, could you connect me to the Pope? Like, do you want it bad enough to do that? And I think a lot of people have to really ask themselves, these things that are on their so-called bucket list, are they willing to put in the effort and time? And if not, maybe they just don't want it bad enough. What do you think about that?
I think you're right. I think the other thing is, sadly, we're in a laughing society. We actually like to laugh at people that fail. Mm-hmm. If you think of Elon Musk, that actually did the Cybertruck. Now, the news the following day wasn't the fact that he had actually disrupted the auto industry with a truck. It was the fact that his bulletproof glass broke when they threw a rock at it.
Right.
We love to laugh. We love to mock until we can't. And Elon Musk said it best. He said they will always laugh at you before they applaud.
Right.
And that was a perfect example of it with that rock. Whenever he did those rockets to use the reusable fuel cells, do you remember those rockets that would land on the platform in the ocean?
Yep.
And what would we see? We would see it land, we would see it tip over, and we would see it explode into a beautiful, big, like cinematic finale of a movie. And the whole thing would just explode. We saw that so many times, didn't we? Mm-hmm. When was the last time you saw it land?
Yeah. It's not celebrated as much. I happen to actually go on YouTube once in a while and watch the landings, but I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah, the bottom line of it is, we have got TV shows where we focus at people falling over, walking into walls, hitting themselves. We've got TikTok, Instagram. We got all of these things where we laugh at the person being shown up. Now, the bottom line of it is, I got to notice something that had a continuity between all of my clients. They don't care what you think. They care what they do. And I realized that I don't care. I don't care. I haven't tried to be as good looking as you. I haven't tried to be as suave as Peter Diamandis. I haven't tried to be, as handsome as, Garrett Gunderson. Our friends. I haven't tried any of that, because it takes zero effort to be me. And then I can use all of my effort to focus on what needs to be done. Yep. Too many people now are scared of what you think. And the bottom line of it is, gives a crap. I care about what I do. I care about what I can solve. I care about what I can create. I care about what will be my legacy. But you sniggering in the corner because I've just told you my dream is to go up Mount Everest with an elephant on my back doesn't hold any interest or clout to me at all.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Any other tips, Steve, that's huge. It's so massive, and I think people are going to walk away from this a little more likely, or a lot more likely, to actually achieve these things that they want to do. Any other tips that you have for folks who are saying, I'll give you one. I'll be open and I'll share an embarrassing one. I've wanted to have Tim Ferriss on this show forever, since day one, and we're now rounding out 300 episodes. Any other tips besides doing the day-to-day, every day, making the first step, asking for the connections? What else should I do?
So you're coming at it from the wrong angle for a start. We know full well. Here's the thing. 7:00 tonight, you get a phone call. Before you've answered that phone, whether it be me, Joe Polish, your mum, your next door neighbor, you can guarantee when that phone rings, the person that's on the other end of the phone wants something. That's why they phoned. Okay. It's a simple fact. It's simple fact and logic. Someone's called you because they want something. They may want to check you okay. They may want to invite you out for dinner, or they may want to sell you something, but they want something. Okay? You're contacting Tim Ferriss because you want Tim Ferriss on your show. You need to create what will make Tim Ferriss want to be on your show. See, you've thought about it from the wrong side of the playing field. Whenever I've gone up to any of the clients that I've dealt with, or any of the celebrities, or the famous people that I've dealt with, when I've had a client that's wanted to meet them or hang out with them or something like that, I don't go out to them and go, hey, my client wants this. Can you do it? Or how much would it cost? You're coming at it from the wrong end. So if you go up to them and you go, hey, I hear you're releasing a book, or I hear you support this charity, or I hear that you are now a spokesperson for this cause, I've got a way of being able to draw more attention to that cause. Oh, by the way, my client wants to meet you, and this would actually help your cause. So I'm coming at it with a reason. Now, we both know Dan Fitzpatrick, who is a member of the Genius Network, and he wanted to meet the rock band Journey. I ended up putting him on stage where he actually sang 4 tunes live on stage with the entire group. He was in San Diego live on stage. So he is now the shortest termed lead singer of the rock band Journey. Now, I did that because I found out that the drummer's son had autism. And Dan's brother's son has autism. So I was able to connect with the band and go, hey, I'm aware that your son has autism. My client's brother's son has autism. He understands the challenges. We have a request for your band Journey, but I would like to do it wrapped up around the name of Autism Speaks to bring more attention to autism and what can be done and how it can be looked at. None of those things that I just said to you mentioned dollar signs. Now, we knew that the managers want money, the venue wants money. We knew there was going to be money involved. But we gave them a reason to want to make it happen. This was going to help the drummer and his family bring awareness to something that's impacting their family. So think of Tim, do your homework. What is he trying to promote? What is his passion? Now, we all know Tim. Tim's kind of a weird cat. I've known Tim for years. But find out what he's involved in. Find out what lights his light bulbs up. And then find a way how you, being part of his world, can help him do more of what he's doing. Now, the obvious one is when someone's got a book coming out. Yeah. You can go, hey, I hear you got the new book. I'd love to promote your book. In fact, I'd love to buy 5,000 copies. That's a very shallow way of doing it. It's a very easy way, but it's a very shallow way of doing it. But with Tim, or with anyone, what's the reason that's going to make them want to be on your show rather than every reason you have for them to be on it?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right. And I think where a lot of people go wrong is they immediately assume, what could I possibly offer to them? What could I possibly offer to Oprah? And yet, coming back to Steve Sims' rule number 1, stop doing that, right? And right away, start figuring out ways. Stop thinking, stop analyzing, stop naysaying, and just go into creative mode.
Yeah, you're right. Just find out what it is. I actually had, and he's a friend of ours, I had someone have breakfast with Oprah Winfrey in Canada. And the way that we made it happen was because she was supporting a school, and we offered to pay for computers for the school. She could have paid for every single computer in that school that we paid for on her credit card and probably not even noticed it go through at the end of the month. But we gave her something that she didn't have to think about that benefited something that she was passionate about.
Incredible. Absolutely.
At the moment,
incredible.
One of the worst things that's going on, just to embellish on that and just enlighten it a bit more, you need to go to someone with a solution. You need to say, hey, I believe you're involved in this. I've got this. You have to put some thought in it. The worst statement, and we get this a lot now, people contact us, go, hey, if I can be of any help to you whatsoever, just ask me. And I had this guy contact me the other day that I didn't know very well, and he contacted me and did exactly, hey, Steve, if I can be of any help to you, please just ask me. I said, actually, yes. I said, I've got an oil plug that's stuck in a 1975 Norton Commando. If you could get over here, drill it, retap it, and screw that up, do it by Tuesday, I'd appreciate that. And he came back to me, he's like, well, I don't actually know anything about motorbikes. And I said, well, why is it now my problem to think about what you can solve? Why are you now my issue to help you help me? But if he'd have come to me and gone, hey, Steve, I believe, I don't know, and I'm making it up. I drove past your house the other day and I noticed a couple of roof slabs were missing. Could I pop over and help you with those? He's identified a problem I have and he's creating a solution to it. Hey, Steve, I've been listening to your podcasts and it's a bit gravelly. Have you considered these microphones? Again, that's coming to me with a solution. Michael O'Neill did exactly that. Told me I was using a microphone. It made me sound like crap. So he suggested some different microphones, and these are the ones that I'm on now, the Shure 58s. So go to someone. And the amount of times, here's the daft thing. The amount of times I've gone to someone powerful and I've gone, hey, I heard about this project you're doing, and I wondered, had you considered this, and this? And I'm feeling all chuffed with myself because I've given them a solution to a project that they're involved in. And the person in front of me has gone, that's a really good angle. But we canned the idea a month ago. And I've gone, oh, crap. But they said, hey, but we like the way your mind works. I've not always got it right. I think there's maybe a dozen projects that I've come to someone with solutions, and they've turned around and gone, yeah, we thought about that, so we decided not to proceed. But not one of them has done anything other than turn around and gone, hey, but I like the way that you came with a solution. Would you care to work on this project with me? And I've gone, right, send me the details. Let me have a look. So people want problem solvers. They don't want opportunists.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Steve, I know we are coming up on time here. I do want to ask you, what are some of the things that you do? I mean, you know a lot of high-performing people. What are some of the things that you do to keep yourself performing at an optimal level? Things that you've learned from some of the incredible folks that you've interacted with?
Well, one of them we've already stated is to not care about anyone else's approval. Okay, it really it doesn't help you run a race if you're carrying everyone else on your shoulder. So the first thing is you've got to ignore everyone. And those people in the corner telling you can't do it, 9 times out of 10, they're embarrassed. You're going to show them that you can, and show them that show them up that they're inadequate to be able to do it. So never worry about anyone else. Peter Diamandis gave me a golden nugget years ago, which is working very well even in today. He said, never watch the news. Because it's the old statement about if it bleeds, it leads. And we've got nothing but negativity at the moment. Why do I want to wake up in the morning, turn on the news station to have the news reporter look at me and say, hey, good morning, and then spend the next 3 hours telling me why it's not? So I never watch the morning news. I kind of think that if something big's going on in the world, I'm going to get a text. It's going to pop up somewhere. I'll hear about it. Worst case scenario, I'll find out about it at 6 o'clock at the night when I'm drinking my cocktail and my day's over. Okay? So I never watch the news. Agreed. Never worry about your opinion. Yes, never worry about the news. You can actually download apps that give you breaking news headlines. And if you like it, you can click on it to get more details. But at the moment, no one knows anything. That's the only fact that we can all agree on. We know nothing about anything yet. It makes me laugh. Every night at 10:30, they have the sports roundup. The news station at 10:30 every night here in Los Angeles still does the sports roundup, even though for the past month there's been no sports playing. But they don't want to stop This sports, so they talk about, oh, well, there's no sport. Well, we knew that, mate, but you're doing a sports roundup. And it's kind of funny to watch them kind of shuffle around and try and fill up that time. But I don't focus on the news. I don't focus on the negativity. And here's the one that I think a lot of people miss out on. I love reading books, but I make sure that every second or third book that I read is a fantasy. It could be The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. It could be Agatha Christie. It could be, something fantastical and whimsical like Harry Potter. But here's the thing. We're in a transactional society. One thing that AI will never be able to do is to dream and create and fantasize. We have to get those nuance, those parts, and I'm sure if we had Diamandis here with us, it'd tell us where they were, but we have to get that part of our brain that imagines, that lights up, that imagines we're riding around on a floating carpet over a mystical world of yellow princesses. We have to get into that world of fantasy, because here's what happens. When you come back, your mind is so open to that creating and fantasizing that when you look at the problem you've got, you solve it. Because solving things takes the dream, takes you to be able to create, takes you to fantasize. So I really try to watch movies or programs, but I love reading, because when you read it, in your mind is far superior than it will ever be on a TV screen. So I do like to fantasize and dream.
I love those three, and those are three that have almost never come up on the show, so I really appreciate those. I do want to ask you, Steve, for some homework we can give people, whether it's, visiting your website, downloading a resource, whether it's an exercise, a journaling exercise, even if we want to give them a specific task. But what's something people should do while they wait for next week's episode?
Well, I've already told you that everyone should join up onto an Entrepreneur's Advantage with Steve Sims. That's the private Facebook group. And I'm always dropping stuff in there, and we're always conversing over what's going on. But the bottom line of it is you've got to get support. It sounds like a strange homework task, and you're already creating it here, I'm pleased to say. But an entrepreneur alone dies. Entrepreneur together, we conquer. So we've got to get a group of those challenging, not the naysayers, not the people in the pub that go, oh, you shouldn't be doing that, Jonathan, ignore that. You need to get those people that go, well, that sounds wild and risky. Why is that so important to you, Jonathan? You should get those people that challenge you and get you focused. So you need to get the right group. At this moment in time, maybe it's your best mate that you do a FaceTime with, twice a day. Maybe it's a Facebook group. Maybe it's someone you jump on WhatsApp and just converse with. Maybe it's listening to more podcasts, but you need to get support. You don't want to be focusing on the negativity, because today is a phenomenal opportunity for you to get ahead.
Absolutely. Mr. Steve Sims, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been an absolute pleasure. Couple final wrap-up questions here. Where should we send people? You mentioned the podcast, which we're going to link up at superhuman.blog. Any other places you would like people to connect with you? Maybe drop your Instagram handle, any websites they should check out. And obviously, we will link to the book BLUEFISHING on the website as well.
Well, I'm easy to find. Steve D. Sims, D for dog, or dashing, whatever you want to think. But Steve D. Sims, and there's only one M in Sims, stevedsims.com. But you can find me at Steve D. Sims in, Facebook, LinkedIn. Instagram is where I post stuff. Sometimes I shouldn't, but it's I'm easy to find.
Fantastic. And the last question I ask every guest is, if people take away one big message from this episode and they carry that message with them for the rest of their lives, what would you hope for that to be?
Stop thinking and do.
I love it. Consistent and to the point. Steve Sims, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was so fun. I'm glad I finally got to dig into your kind of elusive history and get to know you better, my friend.
Appreciate it, boy. Be safe.
Thanks for tuning in to the award-winning Superhuman Academy podcast. For more great skills and strategies, or for links to any of the resources mentioned in this episode, visit superhuman.blog. While you're at it, please take a moment to share this episode with a friend and leave us a review on iTunes. We'll see you next week.